The man that gave us Anytime, the man that gave us that when he was on Martin and Gina, one of my favorite episodes, when he was singing to Martin and Gina, that man that we thought we knew is no more.
Talk to him.
This show is, be honest, on a very low calorie, high protein diet. Be honest. Welcome to the That's Scary with Meloney P podcast. I am your girl, Meloney P, and we are here with another episode. We are here on the heels of Mother's Day weekend, and I hope everyone had an amazing Mother's Day. I had a great, amazing Mother's Day, and I'm very, very grateful. But listen, today we're not talking about the mothers. Today we are talking about the fathers. More specifically, we're talking about Brian McKnight. So let's get started, y'all. Before we get started, make sure you hit that subscribe button. All right, y'all. So I'm sure you just hit the subscribe button. So welcome to the That's Scary with Meloney P family. Thank you to all of the returning That's Scary with Meloney P family. And for all of my new subscribers, thank you for rocking with your girl. So here's a funny, interesting story I'm about to tell you. I actually recorded this episode last week, right? Because Brian McKnight was all up in the media, doing what Brian McKnight does best lately and making himself look bad. They are canceling his concerts, and the man that gave us Anytime, the man that gave us that when he was on Martin and Gina, one of my favorite episodes, when he was singing to Martin and Gina, that man that we thought we knew is no more. So I was doing the episode and I recorded it, and after I stopped recording it, I literally called my friend and I'm like, I think I might have went too far in this episode, but she didn't answer. So I went to edit this episode that I'm talking about, and it didn't even record. And I feel like that was divine intervention, because when I sat and I thought about the whole Brian McKnight conversation, one of the things that really hit home to me was the parallel of blended families, right? So for those of you guys who don't know, Brian McKnight got married in his early 20s. His first wife had, I think, 2 or 3 of his kids. Then he had another daughter outside of his marriage. So actually, while he was still married, he fathered another child. And he was married, I think, for like 13 years to his first wife, a black lady. And they ended up divorcing. And when they divorced, he ended up, being single for a while. But then he remarried, I want to say 2017-ish is when he remarried to this lady named Meloney. Now, when he remarried, this is when the shit kind of hit the fan, because basically he allegedly, I guess, disowned his first set of children. And in the process of disowning his first set of children, he adopted the new wife's children and had another baby, a son, with the new wife. So if you've been looking at social media for the past several months, he has been on social media basically saying that, he don't basically fuck with his kids. And I hate to say it, but the black kids, he don't really mess with the first set of kids. He literally said that he felt like they were bred from sin, that he never loved their mother. Just a bunch of horrible stuff. He literally has named his new son, and I want you to pay attention to the usage of the word new in this episode, right? But his new son, he ended up making him a junior when he already had a junior already with his first set of kids. He literally said that his stepkids, the new wife's kids, made him a girl dad. All the while, he already was a girl dad because he had a daughter from basically a side chick, it seems like, while he was married. So he even goes as far on his Instagram bio to basically say father of 3, meaning not the father of, and he lists out the new kids. So on his Instagram, I think it shows, and I'm gonna try to insert it right here, but on his Instagram, it literally shows like Brian McKnight, husband of this new lady, and father to boom, 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 the new kids listed out, and he totally disregards the old kids. And here's the thing, and here is the discussion that nobody's really having. So let me just say right now that Brian McKnight is dead wrong, like dead with a capital D, dead wrong with what he's saying about his kids, how he has basically kind of cut out the black kids, because that's just really what it is. You know what I'm saying? He really like just disowned, and not only disowned behind closed doors, but he has disowned to the world, voluntarily to the world. He's disowned his first set of kids. And while that is so horrible, I think it lends to a broader conversation. And that conversation is about this new normal we have with blending families. So let me kind of give you the parallel. A lot of times, especially now in this new normal that we live in, a lot of people get married young in the same way that Brian McKnight got married super young in his 20s. He's even been quoted to say that when his first wife got pregnant, he assumed that she was going to, not have the baby. And I guess she changed her mind and she ended up having the baby. So he ended up marrying her, and the rest is history. But the parallel, a lot of us have found ourselves in situations in our early 20s where we got married, we had a family in our early 20s. And let me just make point to say, I always say that people should not get married in their early 20s, because in your early 20s, you're still kind of developing yourself and, finding out who you are. So you really can't, I don't suggest to start a family and to start a marriage when you are just now identifying who you are as an individual. But I digress. So like many of us, he started this family in his early 20s. It seems like maybe he didn't want to start the family, but he did it because it seemed like it was the right thing to do. And, married for 13 years, cheated on his wife. 20 is very young. So even 13 years of marriage, he's still in his early 30s. And now he's a divorced man. But he's a divorced man with a set of older kids, right? So here's a parallel. I got married in my early 20s. And people that I know a lot of people, I'm not going to name names, but I know a lot of people who got married in their early 20s, had children, married for several years, and then divorced. And then the same way that Brian McKnight, they end up remarrying, having 1, 2, 3, 4 more children, and then having a new family. And here's the thing, and I want to keep repeating that Brian McKnight is dead wrong for, let me just preface this. Brian McKnight is dead wrong. He's dead wrong for what he has done, how he has publicly humiliated his children voluntarily. Nobody made him go. He's continuing to go on live, and he's continuing to, make these posts, talking about his new kid and his, these other kids who are basically, if you want to say almost demons, because they're born in sin, which is horrible to say. So he's dead wrong. But here's the parallel. There needs to be a conversation about the ugliness that can be and the trauma and the right and the wrong when it comes to starting over with a new spouse, new children, and how that transition should look. Now, here's the thing. I have a brother. He is in his early 40s, and he got married to his wife, I think like in the late 20s, early 30s age. And his wife had a daughter. He didn't have any kids. And they ended up having a son together. And one of the things that no one can take away from them is that when you see them as a family, meaning husband, wife, wife's daughter, who is, his daughter, and their son, you never ever see a blended family. Like, you never see a blended family. You never see, oh, well, here is, mom, dad, son, and here's the stepdaughter. Like, there's no energy of step anything. There's no energy of blended family. Like, they move and they maneuver like a family, I guess, should. They're really the only couple that I can think of that moves like that. And here's the thing. No one with malicious intent, no one wants to remarry, and have additional children with a new partner and then not have a smooth transition between previous children and the new children. Now, this sounds, kind of bad, just to be honest, but this stuff is the truth. It's the truth because I've lived it. It's the truth because I have seen it on a constant basis in my surroundings. And so, whereas Brian McKnight is dead wrong, this actually lends to itself to a deeper conversation of how it should look, right? But how it often looks in reality when you have to blend family. Now, here's the thing. So when you have these families and they're blending, oftentimes, so in that example where, I have my brother and they're moving along life as one family, one of the key differences in that particular situation that is unlike most situations is that the stepchild in that situation was very young. So it was a situation where the stepfather, my brother, is actually, the little girl is growing up with my brother. So it's not like a shock. It's not as if she's a teenager or she's almost a young adult and now here's this new person. It's like she's still a young child when he's introduced. So they end up, getting to grow together, and it makes it a whole lot easier, right? But in Brian McKnight's case, in the cases that I've experienced, so in Brian McKnight's case, in the cases that I've experienced, in my own experience and the things I've experienced, most of the time that I've seen, because you are remarrying after being married for such a long time, a lot of times it comes with older children, and the transition with older children, new partner, new spouse, now new baby and new life can be ugly and it could be rocky. And it definitely is up to the parents to, because here's the thing, it sounds so easy. It sounds so, well, this is common sense. It's up to the adults. It's up to the adults to make sure everything blends appropriately. It's up to the child's parents. It's up to the new parent to make sure that they're building a relationship with the new children. Like, it sounds pretty, but when you're in that, when you're in that situation and you're dealing with, children who might not even want you there with their mother or with their father, when you're dealing with children who are of an age to where they have strong opinions, they're going through their own adolescent phase. They probably don't like you because they look at you as a person who ruined their family. So a person who's coming in can try, but there's only kind of so much you can do, one. But then here's something that I've seen as well that is very scary. Oftentimes, someone said to me when I was just having this conversation earlier that you have to be really careful about who you choose for a partner, especially when you have kids. And my thing to that was, you could be careful as hell, because I have seen it to where a new parent comes in bright-eyed, bushy-tailed, loving the new kids, you know what I'm saying? Loving the new kids, all because they want to get that ring, right? They want to get in good. So it's not likely in most cases that you're going to show your desperation, show your hand, and be like, you know what? I don't really fuck with these kids, or I don't like kids, or I really didn't want to date somebody that had kids, but I want to be married. And so I'm going to just do what I got to do to get this ring, to get married to this man. And then once you guys start incorporating your children, that's when a lot of the true colors start to come out. And listen, I'm not going to hold y'all, because, you know, I like to be transparent and raw. My first marriage, I was in my early 20s. My husband at the time was in his late 20s, early 30s, and he had 2 children. And me being 20 something years old, about to be married, I was not coming at it from a space of, oh, wow, I'm about to be a stepmom. You know why? Because those children were never really around, you know, and me being a low key child myself, you know, at 22 years old, it was nothing that I was really checking for. I was just having fun, you know, with my older man, and, you know, living my life, because, oh shit, these kids ain't around. So this is how it's going to be forever. But then you get older, you mature, you find yourself, you and your husband, you know, have a kid together, which we did. And now, oh shit, now these kids are starting to come around more and more. And it was never established in the onset of the relationship and dating that, okay, listen, these are my children. These children come with me. They're important to me. If you're going to be with me, I need you to make sure that you can be a good stepmom or a good whatever the case might be. That never happened. And it's likely that, you know, probably never happened for a reason, because at the end of the day, you know, especially back then, a man with children, not a kid, but children, I've seen it often, and I'm not saying that that's always the case, but I've seen it often where men lie about having kids, or they don't really like to lead with that, because I guess it could be a deterrent to women, especially if a woman does not have children herself. So I have to just keep it a buck and keep it 100, because it's like, you know, when I was in that situation at 20 years old, I wasn't super excited to be nobody's stepmom. I wasn't even thinking about that. And then when it started to come around, I was like, oh shit, you know what I'm saying? And then when we had a child of our own, it was like, oh shit, because whoa, you know, because unfortunately, these are all very ugly truths that a lot of people will not admit to, but nobody's going to say that when they dream as a little girl of getting married, starting a family, that they dream of, you know, stepkids. Nobody will admit that, you know? And that's why, you know, that's why you have this whole thing of an evil stepmother or evil stepfather, because that's common. That's common. And nobody be talking about this. And so when I was, and then you throw in the mama's child, the baby mamas and the baby daddies, it's a whole nother situation. The jealousy, the toxicity, you know what I'm saying? It's a lot. And so whereas Brian McKnight, again, dead wrong. And so where Brian McKnight is, you know, he's dead wrong. And I have to keep saying that he's dead wrong. But when I was like looking into this story, I saw an interview where Brian McKnight was saying that when he first got married in 2017 to the new wife, he gave his, I think, 2 oldest sons like 2 years. So they were adults, I believe, at this time, or, you know, right entering into like adulthood. And he gave them 2 years to where he promised to pay for everything for them, allowing them 2 years to try to get up on their feet, you know, find a lane, find, you know, something that they're passionate about. But for 2 years, he paid for everything. And then he told them that after that 2 years, you know, I'm cutting you off financially, because at this point you're grown and you need to, like, you know, fend for yourself. At one point, when Brian McKnight first remarried, one of his sons allegedly, per Brian McKnight, broke into the home, where Brian McKnight and his new wife, lived, took out the picture of Brian McKnight's new wife and replaced it with a picture of their mom. And again, none of this makes what Brian McKnight has said publicly about his children right. And he's going to atone and he's going to pay for that 100%. But again, it just leads to a bigger conversation about how it looks for this new normal of blended families. And it doesn't make any of it right. But here's the thing. There are a lot of people who, remarry and have these children and they have the best of intentions. But especially a man, trying to balance, new wife, make her happy, new children, another chance at something that didn't go right with, his first family, make them happy, child who are teenagers or who are young adults who you can't give them a beating, you can't put them on punishment. They're grown. So disgruntled children, maybe and the blend is not going the way we hope it would go. For a man, especially, I feel like it could be a very, very hard thing to manage. And I am speaking because I've seen it. I have seen it over and over and over again. Let me paint a picture for you. Great man, divorced, teenage son, let's say teenage son, I don't know, 15, 16 years old. Him and that son have always been together. They've always lived together. He's taken care of that son all his life. Let's say that, dad remarries, starts in I shouldn't say another, but I mean, truly it is. Like, I just don't want to sugarcoat shit and make it seem like, oh, here's another family that I'm starting. I'm having more children and let's just blend and all be happy. People don't be happy. Parties involved don't always be genuinely happy. The children don't always be happy. Sometimes the wife or the husband might not be as happy. The same thing goes with men too. I don't find it to be as common with men. Maybe men who have sons as stepkids, but there can be a lot of asshole kids that make it very difficult. And by kids, I mean teenagers that make it very difficult to blend the situation. And when you have teenagers that are 1 foot out the door and they can just say, fuck it, I'm gonna go to the other parent's home because they have that choice. And I'm sure the other parent ain't gonna stop them in a lot of cases. It just further divides the blend. It further divides the blend. So it leads me to this point, because this is a lot of people's new normals, I think that there should obviously be a lot of therapy, a lot of attempts of inclusivity. A word get me every show. Inclusion, I'll say, when it comes to, I have children, I'm with a new person, I'm marrying this person, we are going to have children. How does this look for all parties involved? And, all of this sounds really, really pretty. It sounds pretty, but I don't think many people do that because when you're in the early stages of, new marriage, new relationship, you're really in that honeymoon cloud nine phase. And in your eyes, everything looks perfect, but it is up to the parents to make sure that, okay, this is, if possible, a healthy and a good blend for all parties involved. Now, my hope and my prayer for Brian McKnight, honestly, is him and his children can find their way back to each other. Him and his children, these are adults, and you would expect some of the pettiness from the children, but the pettiness and the level of pettivity that Brian McKnight has displayed has been just I mean, it's really dirty. It is really dirty. And I've seen a lot of people say, well, damn, what is the wife doing? Like, how is the wife okay with a man talking shit, disowning his kids, talking shit about his kids, calling them basically demons? Like, how is she okay with this? And I cannot speak for that lady, obviously. But there's always three sides to a story. And at the end of the day, I'm sure she's really just laser focused on her kids. And I'm sure like she doesn't have any connection to these adult children, because when she came into the situation, they were 1 foot out the door. So there was really, to how I interpret it, there was really no like living together, bonding, doing things together, because they were young adults at the time. But I don't know when it comes to that wife. Like, I don't know. Yeah, you can, as a wife, you can push and push for your partner to do things when it comes to like, their kids or anything, not even just kids. And at the end of the day, your man is a grown ass man, and you can push, but they're going to do what they want to do. You know what I'm saying? So again, it all goes back to this blended family, this new normal. And I think this could be recurring, a bigger conversation, I would like to have someone on to kind of talk about it, just to get another opinion, another perspective about this, because I have a feeling that this might be a shocking conversation or a shocking thing to talk about, because it's kind of ugly. Because at the end of the day, when you think of children, you got to protect these children. The children come first, whatever. But reality is, when you're dealing with, children who might be disgruntled, children that, might not be here for the new dad, the new mom, children who don't even live in the home. So they're just visiting, you know what I'm saying? Or they're on the outside looking in. It cannot always be like, it can sometimes not always be a smooth transition. And I said in the beginning, pay attention to the usage of the word new. Like I kept saying, like, damn, I don't want to use the word new when it comes to like a new baby or a new family, because that sounds bad. But in all realness, it is a new family. It's a new family. It's new children. And think about it. Like, even in my case, my 18-year-old is not getting, she didn't get the same version that my 1-year-old is getting. You know what I'm saying? I was, being so young, going through a divorce, being in a marriage you don't want to be in, trying to find yourself after divorce, like trying to just find out who you are, versus being in a stable relationship, you know what I'm saying? Being stable financially, having all these different things. It's two different people, and it's probably not fair. You know what I'm saying? But it's just how it works sometimes. This is a really, really raw conversation, and I really want to know your thoughts in the comments. And I really want to put emphasis on, I am not on Brian McKnight's side. I think he gonna pay. And I wish him and his children healing, and I wish him and his children, a way to come back to each other and be better and be an example. And maybe they can, be a testimony to other people who could be going in that same direction. But I just want to say that this conversation is not a pretty one. It's a real one. And I think that there should be a lot more conversation and emphasis on how it looks to blend families, therapy behind it, conversations, starters behind it, even how it looks to pick a partner when there's children existing and children involved. Like, you can't, obviously you're not God, you're not a magician, so you don't know what a person truly feels about your child deep down. But at the end of the day, when you have a child or children, it changes things, it changes everything in the partner you pick, and just a lot of things. Listen, y'all, I just really want to get your opinion about this whole Brian McKnight situation, and we might come back with the part 2 of this. I think I do want to get someone else on to kind of give me their perspectives who have lived the whole new normal, blended family or new marriage, new children life. Make sure that you guys drop a comment below. Make sure you guys are subscribed to the channel, and I will see you in the next episode.